Hey, it is Nicole, and I have, of course, our lovely co-host, Miss Tamara Brown. And tonight, we are joined by the professional himself, Mr. Paul Gardner. We're going to discuss things from contracts to doing business in Baltimore City, and just basically things that are going on in the state of Maryland. So I'm ready, y'all. Y'all ready?
Yeah, good evening. Welcome,
Yes.
welcome. The contract doctor, Mr. Gardner. Welcome
How
to the
you
show.
doing? Nicole, Tamara. Hello, thanks for having me.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thanks
hello.
for joining us tonight.
So, Paul, right now, I mean, it's some hot things that's going on. The main thing is that the federal government, I guess, has released millions of dollars pretty much for businesses that are hurting. I'm finding out about different programs like the SBA 7A program and just a variety of different things. But right now, can you just explain to us, I guess, the different programs that are out there for small businesses?
Yes, real quick. I'll tell you. I'm gonna give you a quick class. Listen, I'm gonna run it down. Y'all ready? Here we go. Now, when COVID-19 hit, the federal government put out like 10 piles of money for everyone to go get. Okay. Now, there's really 6 piles of money that you and I, the average person, can't get. Like there's a pile of money for the airline industry. Obviously we can't get that. So there's really 4 piles of money that we can get to that people were paying attention to. 2 of the piles of money people were paying a lot of attention to, and the other 2 piles of money people kind of were like an ostrich. Their head was in the sand. So out of the 10 piles of money, we're going to pay attention to 4, the 4 that matter to us, okay? The first pile of money is the unemployment checks, okay? A lot of folks enjoyed that, and that's great. The second one that a lot of people pay attention to, the second check that a lot of people pay attention to are the stimulus checks. Remember the stimulus checks, the stimmies, right? So those are the first 2 piles of money that everyone paid attention to. But the last 2 piles of money were the biggest piles of money, and people didn't really, they're just getting around to it. Those 2 piles of money, PPP and EIDL. At a very high level, PPP basically is going to be your free money, and EIDL you're going to pay back. But don't be afraid of the EIDL that you pay back, because cash is king. Grab all the cash you can get so you can be king or queen. You know what I mean? That's the name of the game. Besides, the EIDL that you're going to borrow is 30 years, and it comes at a 3.75% rate. So I got somebody $87,000. They woke up in the morning, they had $87,000 all at once. They don't give it to you piece by piece. They trust you. They give you 87,000 all at once. How would you feel, Nicole, Miss Brown, if you went to sleep tonight, you woke up with $87,000 in your bank account? Wouldn't you feel pretty decent? Right?
Yeah, and I make
Well,
it
as long as it was legal, yes, of course.
Well, yeah.
So
We're gonna talk
the
about that too in a
PPP,
minute.
right?
So
PPP,
$87,000. I'm sorry.
Can you tell us what PPP stands for?
Yes, PPP is the Paycheck Protection Program. EIDL is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan.
These are for businesses, correct? Not individuals?
Well, it can be for individuals. We call those sole proprietors. So I know we're going to talk a little bit about entities. So you've got your LLCs, you have your S Corps, you have your C Corps, you have your partnerships. But you know what else we have? We have sole proprietorships. That is a legal entity by itself. And in a sole proprietorship, you can be carrying on business without the aid of an LLC, S Corp, C Corp, or partnership. You're just an individual, right? You're selling hair. You're selling cupcakes, cake. You're selling dinners. You're doing hair. You can just be by yourself. You haven't even gone to do an LLC yet. And you are a legal entity. It's called sole proprietorship. And guess what? You, as a sole proprietor, can get PPP and EIDL.
So you have to be a registered business, even if it's a sole proprietorship. Is that?
You said what now?
You have to be in business. You have to have a registered business, even if it is a sole
I don't want to say
proprietorship.
registered, because a sole proprietorship isn't registered.
Okay.
Sole proprietorship isn't registered. You know what I mean? So that's what a lot of people are missing. That you don't have to go down to, in Maryland, it's the SDAT, State Department of Assessments and Taxation, and file something formal. No, you know what I mean? You don't have to. Now, in our community lately, we've been talking about, fraud, and we're talking about scams, and with the PPP and EIDL, and with good reason. It only takes a few people to mess it up. So if you have a legitimate side business, if you're driving Uber, Lyft, if you're making some money doing hair on the side for you and your friends, your sister girls, if you're doing cutting hair as a barber on the side, you may go to your 9 to 5 and you come home and you may cut 2 or 3 fellas a night. And then on Saturday and Sunday, people come to your chair or people come to your house, or you may sell cupcakes and dinners and this and that. It's legal if you're doing something that earns you money on the side. You can legally get the PPP and the EIDL, So I'm a little perplexed at our community labeling some of these hardworking individuals as scam artists or some of these other words when they are literally busting their tails just to make ends meet. 9 to 5, let's be honest, a 9 to 5 is not always going to make ends meet all the time. And so you have to do side jobs. You have to do stuff, If you're cutting grass on the side, when I grew up, I cut grass on the side. I'm too late. I could have got a PPP for cutting grass on the side.
Now, I guess, people are alarmed because we do see those reports, like recently with the pastor, 39 cars. But my thing was, did he take the money to buy 39 cars to invest in his car business? I mean, like, that part wasn't really clear, because if he was making an investment into his business, is that illegal? I mean,
well, technically the EIDL and the PPP have specific purposes. So with the PPP, you have to either pay yourself, okay? You can pay yourself, but it's over an 8-week period. Or you can pay for PPE, which is personal protection equipment. You can pay your mortgage interest. You can't pay your mortgage, but you can pay your mortgage interest. And you know what else? You can pay your business rent. You can pay all your business rent, okay? So what people are not allowed to do is take all the money that they give you all at once and go buy 38 cars. If the pastor had waited 8 weeks and just paid himself over 8-week time period, he may have been okay. But if he got a large PPP, that tells me that if you're by yourself, your PPP is going to be at $20,832. There's a famous video, well, I think it's famous, where the young lady is saying, I want that 20,000. We want 20,000 too. And what she's talking about is that if you're an individual, if you're a sole proprietor, if you're a single member LLC, you're by yourself. You don't have any employees. Okay. If you're by yourself, then you're going to be stopped at $20,832, which is a lot of money. You know what I mean? So that's what everyone's talking about. So because the pastor got, I think it's 1.3 or 1.7 million PPP, that tells me that he wasn't by himself and he used employees. He used some social security numbers. He used some names, first and last names. He used what we call 940. Annual 940 and quarterly 941s to get that amount. And that's probably the real reason why he's in trouble, because as a pastor of a church, he don't have that many employees. Also, even in your car lot business, you don't have that many employees. And most oftentimes when you do have those employees, they're not properly classified as W-2s, they're 1099s. And in PPP, we can't use income from a 1099 to get your PPP. We can't use it. We can't use W-2 income, and we can't use 1099 independent contractor income. So there's a right way to do PPP. There's definitely a wrong way to do it, as always. But, 96% of the people, I think even the SBA said there was 4% fraud. Where's my camera? 4% fraud. 4% fraud. You know what I mean? So there we go. So it's like 4%. There we go. 4% fraud is what the SBA said in round 1. So 96% of the people did it right, did it correctly, right? So if you have side income and if you report it accurately, get your PPP. You're not doing anything wrong. You're entitled to that money.
Are the PPPs still available?
I'm sorry?
Are the PPPs, are these funds still available?
Yes, currently they're still available. It was supposed to end March 31st, and then that was extended to May 31st. But what some people don't realize is it's May 31st or until the money runs out. And on my website, on my Instagram, IG at The Contract Doctor, I put together a clicker. We count down the money every week. So we started with $284 billion. Okay, 284 billion. Right now we're at about 34 billion. So they ran through $250 billion. To put that in perspective, $1 billion will buy you a big sports team. So the Baltimore Ravens are worth actually a little more. The Baltimore Ravens are $2 billion. But at $284 billion, you could have bought the Baltimore Ravens 140 times over. Okay? That's how much money is flooding the street. I want your listeners to understand. This is a life-changing financial mechanism. Okay? It is the greatest wealth transfer that we will ever see. It's the greatest wealth transfer in the history of this country. And others that don't look like us are getting their share. We're on the sidelines like, oh, I'm scared, master, don't get me. You better get your PPP. Do it the right way. Do it the right way. A third time, do it the right way. But go get your PPP. You're entitled to it. It's for you.
Okay, well, Paul, so speaking of doing it the right way, for those that did get the PPE earlier on, when it first started, as far as taxes, are they going to file that in their taxes, or do they deduct that from their taxes, or do they consider that income? Is that the correct way to do that?
In the first round, that answer was yes. In the first round, it was going to be taxable. It's going to be taxable coming in, and then when you made purchase, those purchases were also going to be taxable. I was going to say Biden, but I think Trump on his way out, Trump made it so that it was not taxable. Congress and Trump signed it. So that is not a taxable event. When you get your $20,000, it's tax-free, people. Tax-free. Come on. And if you pay yourself, you don't have to pay it back. Now listen, PPP is a forgivable loan. So make no mistake about it. It starts off as a loan, okay? It's a loan. But it's a forgivable loan, meaning that if you use the money to either pay yourself, if you use the money to pay your employees, if you use the money to pay for PPE, or you use the money for mortgage interest, remember, or if you use the money for your rent, it's forgivable. I tell my clients, we're playing at about 20,000. I don't have any clients that have 200 employees and that are getting millions of dollars. Okay, that's not where we are. Most of our clients getting 15 to 20,000, and everybody's happy. Okay, you know what I mean? If you give me $500, I'm happy. Okay, so 15, 20,000, I'm really happy. So as long as you divide that into 8 piles of money, whatever amount you get, say you get 20,000, divide it into 8 piles of money, and then just take 1 pile every week. That's it. You're entitled to take 1 pile once a week. Don't get greedy. Don't get that second or third pile in that same week. Just get 1 pile each week for 8 weeks.
And that pile should be coming from your business account, correct? The PPE should be deposited into your business.
If you're a sole proprietor, it's coming out of your personal account.
Okay.
Because you don't have a business account.
So what's the proper way of paying yourself? Because I do know like a lot of people that have businesses that may have payroll systems, but they only pay their employees through a payroll system. They may not necessarily give themselves a check. So How would they necessarily, I guess, legally, what would be the best way for them to document that they're paying themselves?
The best way is to back up. And when you're making your application, you can make your application 2 ways. Okay. So remember, PPP is Paycheck Protection Program. That first P is your paycheck. So you're going to either figure out that paycheck that you're going to give you're going to figure out that first P via your profits or via your payroll. So if you have a significant payroll, you're going to see how many employees you have, right? And then the government is going to pay you 2.5 months of your payroll. Or the government is going to pay you 2.5 months of your profit. So I teach my clients, let's do the math. How many employees do you have? I've got 1 employee. Okay. How much do you pay them each week? Well, hell, Paul, I ain't rich. I pay them $200. Okay, cool. So that's $800 a month. There's people out here getting that. You know what I mean? That's like minimum wage. But anyway, we'll digress. We'll talk about that some other time. Anyway, say $800 a month, right? Or I'll say $1,000 a month. say $1,000 a month, because that's what minimum wage comes up to. Say $1,000 a month. What's 2.5 months of that? $2,500, right? All right. So your PPP, if you got PPP just for your employee, you'd get $2,500. Now that same person profited 100,000. So maybe they brought in 200,000, right? And their expenses were 100,000. That leaves them with the profit of 100,000. If you take 100,000 and you do the math, I'm gonna speed it up. If you do the math, that entitles that person to the full amount, 20,832 PPP. So Nicole, Ms. Brown, you're the owner of your business in this example. Nicole, Ms. Brown, would you want to get that $2,500 PPP for that employee? Or would you want to get the $20,000 PPP and take care of yourself? Which one you want?
I'm going to take option B.
Yeah,
right.
B sounds good,
right?
yeah.
But you know what, Nicole and Miss Brown, you have that choice. You have that choice. You know what I mean? Like if you're sitting on a pile of money and you don't want it, go ahead and get the $2,500 for the employee, and then that takes care of their payroll, their salary for 2.5 months. But most people would say, hey, I'm going to get that 20,000 and, take $2,500 out of that and pay their salary. So that's how you, Miss Orr, you raised the question of how would you legally pay yourself? And I said, back up. So once you determine that you're going to get the money for yourself and you get the 20,000 in this example, again, we're back to that square one. You're going to divide it by 8 weeks, and that's going to pay you out $2,604. I know all the math like the back of my head. You're going to pay yourself $2,604 every Friday. $2,604 every Friday for how many weeks?
For 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
For 8 weeks. Absolutely. For 8 weeks. You get $2,600 for 8 weeks. So that's why I'm trying to spread this PPP gospel as best I can, as gently as I can, to tell folks, yes, unemployment is okay. Okay. Yes, the stimulus checks were okay. Okay. But the people who got them recently, you got $1,400 one time. There it is. One time. What I'm talking about is $2,600 every week for 8 weeks.
Thank you.
And you can do it legally. There's no scam in this. The scam is when you're making up employees that you don't have, when you're making up businesses that you don't have and that you don't do. If it's something that you legitimately have and you legitimately do and you're busting your tail to make ends meet, this is a government program that's meant for you. You put your application in, you get your money.
So for a business, for let's say someone that was collecting unemployment and couldn't find employment, and they started a business last month, do they qualify for this program because they didn't have the business previous to COVID or previous to the funds being available?
No, ma'am. So there's a statutory date. The statutory date by which you can kind of get what's yours, or you can kind of make an application, is February 15th, 2020. So as of February 15th, 2020, if you weren't operating in your gift, okay, doing hair, selling cupcakes, dinners, whatever, if you weren't operating in your gift by February 15th, 2020, it's a wrap. And then you have to go to what you said, Ms. Orr, earlier, SBA 7A loan as an Apple. So that would be where I would send people that are in that situation.
Okay, and so the process, so now you've got the money, you've reinvested it into your business, you paid your employees, you've paid yourself, you've made some investments so your business can survive post this $20,000 because you don't want to spend it all.
Right.
How do you, this is a loan, how does it transition from a loan to not being a loan?
So the forgiveness part has a forgiveness application. And whoever you use, there's a bank. Okay, so at PPP, you go through a bank. EIDL, you go straight through the SBA. And even though with the PPP, you're going through a bank, eventually the SBA is going to be involved. They're going to have to approve the loan as well. So at PPP, you're going to have 2 approval processes. You're going to have an approval process through that bank and then through the SBA. Once you get the money, 8 weeks later, your funding source, your bank, is going to reach out to you. They'll email you. Trust me, they're going to email you and say, hey, now's the time for loan forgiveness. And another thing that Trump did on his way out, I don't like him, but he did two things right. And this is the second thing he did right by America and small business. On the way out with loan forgiveness, all you have to do now is a one-page affidavit that I, Nicole, I, Paul, I, Miss Brown, spent the money the way I was supposed to spend it, sign it, and send it in. Loan forgiveness. That's it.
He trusted these people. Okay.
So that's automatic. Wow, great.
Yes, automatic loan forgiveness now.
Okay.
But you still should keep your receipts of how you received the money each of the 8 weeks. I teach my clients, you have once you get the money, you have two choices. You actually get to pick the day you want to be paid. You can pick Saturday, you can pick every Tuesday, but whatever day you pick, I say, stay on that day. Let's keep it simple. Okay. So most people pick Friday. And then the second choice you have is, how do you want to get the money? Do you want to just go to the ATM and pull it out? Do you want to go to the teller inside the bank if they allow it during COVID? Do you want to go to the outside teller? Do you want to transfer it? Do you want to write yourself a check and cash it? Whatever way you pick that first week, I say stay there. Keep it simple. On Friday, go to the ATM. Every Friday, go to the ATM. Every Friday or every Thursday, write yourself a check. Whatever it is, if you do that, keep those paper receipts of you getting that money. Keep them. Keep the paper trail, and just put it in a nice folder. And I think you have to keep it for, I'm a little fuzzy on this, but I think you have to keep it for 3 years, might be 5 years. You just, it's in a folder, just file it somewhere. Because anytime that you've done the one-page affidavit, but at any time the SBA can, do an audit and say, hey, Mr. Paul, Miss Nicole, Miss Brown, we just want to double check and make sure you paid yourself. That's it. So if you do that, it's automatically forgiven, but they have the right to audit. Now, it's what, how many loans they've made? 5 million loans, okay? 5 million people got the PPP. Now, out of the 5 million loans, they're not going to be able to check everybody, so the likelihood of any of us three getting checked is, lightning may strike us, before you get checked by the SBA. And like I tell people, stay low. Don't get the money and buy a purse and buy jewelry and buy a new car and you actually do with it what you're supposed to do. Put it back in your business. You know what I mean? Someone told me that poor people spend the money on what they want. Middle class people spend it on bills, and wealthy people spend it on more businesses.
Absolutely. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So we want to talk more about the EIDL, because we've really got in depth on the PPP. Maybe a little more points with the EIDL loan. Yeah.
EIDL loan, that's the big bag. That's the big bag. So 2 weeks ago, they changed the rules. The formula was in the past was based on 6 months of your income. In your business income, even if you're a sole proprietor, whatever your business income. They took 6 months of your income and they did their magical formula at the SBA, and then you were eligible for an EIDL up to $150,000. They changed that 2 weeks ago, and now instead of 6 months, they're taking 24 months of your money, and they're doing their calculations, and now it's up to $500,000. Up to $500,000. We just got somebody, the highest I ever got somebody, $190,000 on EIDL about 3 weeks ago. So she woke up in the morning with $190,000 in her bank account. Went to sleep with whatever, I don't know what was in there, but woke up the next morning with $190,000. And she's going to do the right thing with it, So she had the right paperwork to get the right loan. So her loan is done the right way.
Wow.
But that's the big bag, the EIDL.
I want to imagine. I want to imagine.
That's the big bag. But remember, with EIDL, you pay it back. So when you get EIDL, it shows up on the screen with how much you can get. And then there's a little cursor that you could slide and you could take less. And as you slide it, it shows you what your payments are going to be. So if you know that, listen, if all goes wrong, okay, and I got my business plan together and it doesn't do what I say it's going to do, you know what I mean? I fall on my face. How much can I afford if this fails? So you can actually take that cursor and say, you know, I can take an extra 1,000 a month, and you could take 190 all the way down to $1,000 a month might be somewhere around 100,000, something like that. You know what I mean? So that's how you could do it. I tell my clients, don't take any of the money for EIDL until you have a business plan and until you do this following formula that my law school professor taught me. On any loan that you're trying to even think about taking, you want to make sure that you can take the principal amount and that you can multiply it by 10. You can take the principal amount and multiply it by 10 over the life of the loan. Okay, so let's put this into this example. Say you get 100,000 on EIDL, right? We know that the term of the EIDL is how many years? 30 years. That's the term of the loan. It's 30. It's great. It's lovely, right? So what you have to ask yourself is, can I take this 100,000, multiply it by 10? Can I make it, can I turn it into $1 million in 30 years? Most of us pretty much can. You know what I mean? Most of us can. We got pretty good heads on our shoulders. You know, Black folk been taking almost nothing and making a lot for centuries. So give me 100,000, I can turn it into $1 million. I don't know in 5 years, but I know in 10 years, I don't even need 30. I can shoot. I can do that definitely. Maybe.
What's our number now?
Anyway, what'd you say?
Like what's our phone number?
You know what I mean? So you get 100,000. You want to make sure on any loan that you're looking at getting for the rest of your life. Everybody listening to the sound of my voice, thank you. Make sure that you take this loan, multiply it by 10 over the life of the loan. So again, in this example, you got to take this 100,000, put it in a bag, and then you have to make 9 other bags. So you have to have 10 bags with $100,000 in each bag in 30 years. So conceptually, you take one bag and you give it back to whoever lent you the money, and guess who gets to keep the other 9 bags?
You get to keep it. That's right.
You get to keep it. So whenever you're looking at this EIDL money, if I'm not there holding your hand, number one, make sure that you have a business plan on how you're going to spend that money the right way. You have to get it the right way. You have to keep it the right way. You have to multiply it the right way. Okay. So when you do that, and when you have a business plan, which, shameless self plug, we do business plans. When you have a business plan, then you stay to it, you stick to it, and you can then make sure you multiply the money. The second thing that you want to do is make sure that you follow that formula and you're multiplying it by 10.
Yeah. Oh, great, thank you. So the EIDL is for a new business that may not have been established as of February of 2020. Is because you're saying that have a business plan? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. It is.
Right.
I'm talking about once you get the money, have a business plan as to how you're going to expand that already existing business and make it bigger. You know what I mean?
So they would lend on a projection?
Well, they lend based on your past history, Meaning, so a lot of clients will say, you know, I made 280,000 doing a lot of like real estate. You know, those real estate guys were rocking in 19, 20, and definitely now 21. So, you know, I made 260,000, and my expenses maybe were 120. So they have a large profit margin in there. But a lot of people, I probably have over 400 clients, and even I was surprised at how well African Americans are doing around this country. I have one client in DC that has a clothing store, and after I saw his numbers and his books and his taxes, I almost opened me a clothing line. I said, "Is this much money in clothing lines? I did not know." Made 460, the legitimate right way. I'm looking right at his taxes and books. Crazy.
Wow. Yeah, we are quite resilient, despite all the discrimination and things that we face. We are doing well. So if you can imagine how well you would do if you had those privileges that others have. And so I know a lot of elders that I speak to often say that when you see an average person, an average white person that's not doing well, I mean, they're not using their privilege very well, but if we had that privilege, imagine where we would be and what we would be doing, because we do so much without it, you know? So, so that's a great point.
We're
Someone was
truly
asking
kings and
how to
queens.
reach out to you. So, how would someone reach out to you if they need some help from the contract doctor?
There's a couple different ways to reach out to me. We have a hotline, a national hotline. That phone number is 443-402-5580. So our national hotline is 443-402-5580. You can text me personally. Text, not call. Text me personally at 443-625-9313. So you can text me personally at 443-625-9313. And you can always reach me on Instagram on my IG, The Contract Doctor. Everything spelled all the way out, The Contract Doctor, and DM me.
Thank you so much. This has been great information on PPP. I always want to say PPE, but use the PPP to get the PPE. And so, and the EIDL programs. Are there any closing remarks on that before we get into the business structures and the benefits of different business structures?
No, that's it. That's enough for the people on PPP and EIDL. Just want to leave it. It's not a scam. You're not going to get in trouble. Just use your actual numbers and go get your actual money. That's all, you know. And don't worry about being on the PPP list. That's a list you would want to be on. I mean, that's the money list, folks. Hello.
Thank you so much. Okay. So we want to get into the talk about business structures. And so a lot of people start businesses. They don't know whether to have an LLC, a general partnership, a sole proprietorship, like you spoke about, corporations, and sometimes you can file as an LLC as a corporation. So can you talk just basic, starting with the sole proprietorship, and starting with the general partnerships, like the difference as you escalate up to the different levels of business entities, just what they are and what some of the benefits and disadvantages are for each.
Okay.
So we'll start with the sole proprietorship.
Can I do it a different way? Pretty please?
Do it however you'd like.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I'm asking. I'm a country boy. I'm a country fellow. So I like to start this part of the conversation by saying that back in the day, 20 years ago, you could really pick two things. You could either pick a corporation or you could pick a partnership. Okay? A partnership is two or more people doing business together. All right, that's what a partnership is. You need at least two people for a partnership. So back in the day, you could only pick between what? A corporation and a partnership. But it was a heck of a choice, because the corporation would get taxed twice. The corporation would get taxed once at the corporate level, and then when the owner paid themselves, whether a dividend or salary, they got taxed again. So if you wanted a corporation, you got taxed twice. But guess what? The corporation protected your personal assets. So that's why people were willing to do the double taxation in order to protect their assets. Okay? Now, on the other hand, on the partnership, you only get taxed once. Oh, we like that. Ooh. But guess what? They take away, if I'm only going to tax you one time, your personal assets are up for grabs. Right. I see Nicole like, where? Oh, you don't like that, right, Nicole? No one does. So that was the old problem, the old conundrum. The old issue was, do I pick to be taxed twice and my personal assets are protected and shielded? Or do I just want to, I'm a little greedy, I want to be taxed one time, but then my personal assets are out there for any creditor to grab. So along comes an LLC. So everyone started complaining, like, it has to be better than this. Why do we only have these two major choices? We want a third choice. And finally, guess what? The legislatures, right, Congress and everybody listened, and they came up with the hybrid model. That hybrid model is called an LLC. So in an LLC, we take the best of both worlds. Y'all remember that concert series? What was it? Kanye West and, come on, best of both worlds.
Jay-Z.
Who went on tour? Best of both worlds. Kanye
Wasn't
West.
it Jay-Z?
No.
Yes, right.
No, it was Jay-Z. It was Jay-Z,
Okay.
the forbidden name that we don't use no more.
Huh?
The best of both worlds was Jay-Z and a forbidden singer we don't talk about no more. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Namaste. But we have the best of both worlds in this corporate example, right? So the best of both worlds is on the corporate side, we like the fact that our assets are protected. On the partnership side, we like the fact that we only get taxed once. So that's what an LLC is. In an LLC, you only get taxed one time. And that one time that you're taxed is at your personal level. So an LLC is what we call a pass-through entity, meaning that the tax burdens pass through the LLC onto you on your tax return. Most people, it's going to be a 1040 and it's going to be a Schedule C, and that is how it passes to you. That's a little deep. Just basically for tonight, you want to get taxed one time. That's where they get that from for the LLC, from the partnership side. Okay. Do you want your assets protected? If you want your assets protected, that's also a benefit of the LLC, meaning that they took that from the corporate side. From the corporation side, you get taxed twice, but your assets are protected. So in an LLC, you get what I'm trying to say. In an LLC, you get taxed one time, and your assets are protected. Now, here's one quick tip. In an LLC, even though you're being taxed the one time your assets are being protected, here's the issue I see all of the time. If no one else hears me or runs this back, listen to this part really, really good. This is an inside tip number one, okay? The inside tip number one here is don't commingle funds. When you have an LLC, don't take your LLC bank card and pay your rent, pay your mortgage, go to the grocery store, what have you, because what you're doing when you set up the LLC is you're setting up a separate, what we call an alter ego. Okay, so it's you, person, and separately it's the corporation, it's the entity. So you're going to destroy that when you blur the lines and you use the LLC card or money to pay for personal expenses. That's a big issue.
Now, I also heard that sometimes when you're the only individual in an LLC utilizing pass-through, that sometimes it kind of makes you more prone to being attached versus having like a multi-member or designating it as an escort. So I don't know how true that is. I've just always been advised that with the LLCs to kind of designate as an escort to kind of really separate myself, from that. And of course, not utilizing the cards or anything to attach,
Right.
But is that true? I mean, I don't know. I just do it because they said
that's not all that true. That's not that's not all that true. If you're doing what you're supposed to do and you're keeping the two separate, meaning you yourself, Miss Nicole, separate from your LLC, and you're not commingling funds. It's what we call PCV, pierce the corporate veil. Okay, so that's another inside term. PCV is pierce the corporate veil, meaning that you're forming this alter ego, this S Corp, this C Corp, this LLC and this partnership to protect your personal assets. And they're kind of like in this protective bubble, right? And inside this protective bubble, we can pierce that bubble if at any time you acted as if there wasn't a bubble. You spent that money as if it was yours. And at that time, the bubble disappears, and then a good lawyer can get right down into your personal assets, your bank account, checking or savings, your house. I've seen some people, there's a judicial sale of your house. If your debt is large enough, a judge can come along and force a judicial sale of your house, kick you outside your house, and give the proceeds to your creditor.
So what about, okay, now I can understand if the corporation using your corporate card or your LLC card or whatever to pay your bills. But what about people contributing like owner's equity to the business? Like, is that an issue?
No, if you're contributing owner's equity to the business, you want to do that in the right way. So you want to have a meeting, meeting of the board of directors. You want to take minutes of the meeting. There's a whole corporate structure to doing something like that. And we, the board of directors, consent to Nicole lending the LLC $2,000 for the purpose of ... And we, the board of directors, agree that Nicole can get her money back at any time, or $500 a month, or whatever. And then Nicole is a single member LLC, so Nicole signs it as the board of director, lending, So, but as long as you have that what we call arm's length dealing, and it's documented, you'll be more than fine.
Okay.
But most people don't take the time to do it. Mm-hmm. It's tedious, It's tedious.
Then you having a meeting with yourself.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Wonderful. Thank you for that introduction to business structures. Nicole, did you have any other questions about the business structures?
No, I'm ready to dig into a lot of the different things that are, happening in the world surrounding, business, a lot of the bills that we have that's going forward right now, and definitely before our city council. I've been trying to read up, very interesting.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is always very interesting.
One quick thing on that topic, an S Corp is not really an entity, it's a classification. So you can have your LLC and classify it as an S Corp. You can have your C Corp and you can have it classified as an S Corp. And generally when people do that, it's to get rid of the self-employment taxes, okay? So again, I'm not coming on here. Here's my disclaimer. I forgot my disclaimer. These are opinions, not, I'm not an accountant or lawyer. This is not personal information. This is just all my opinion. It's good opinion, but nevertheless, it is opinion. And if you need to rely on anything that I say, please consult your own individual accountant, CPA, bookkeeper, or attorney. Now, with that being said, if you are getting tore up in your LLC or your C Corp with self-employment taxes, and that's once you start making a bunch of money, like $100,000, you're going to pay $27,000 in self-employment taxes. You know what I mean? So it gets ridiculous after at a certain point. So at a certain point, you can keep your LLC. A lot of people don't know this. They think that they have to go make a C Corp and then designate it as an S Corp. But no, you just have to, I forget the form, but there's an IRS form that you fill out. You can easily Google that, whatever it is, IRS form 1137, something. Anyway, you get that form, you fill it out, and you just change your classification from an LLC single member to an S Corp. And you're going to go down from 27,000 to about 15,000 in self-employment taxes. It's a huge, huge difference. But that's when you start making significant money in your LLC or your C Corp. So I think that's inside tip number 3. I think we're on 3. Something.
Hey, loving them. Love it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. So I guess we can go back to the PPP and the EIDL. I just had a quick question about, I know like the city itself was advertising some things through BBC.
Wait a minute.
So you're saying go to the SBA, but what was the city actually doing for the resident business owners? Can you explain that?
Okay, so the mayor's office. So I've been doing PPP. So let me give a little bit longer answer, not long, but just slightly longer. So I've been doing PPP since February 2020. Okay, that's when I started studying it, and when it came out in April 2020, that's when I started helping myself, and then I helped other people because I got good at it. So anyway, so in the second round, the name of the game is you're trying to find the quickest lender who can process these people and get them the money that they need. Some of these folks that come to me, they need money yesterday to save their businesses. You know what I mean? And if you are even a sole proprietor, you may need money to save your house. You know what I mean? So there's a rent moratorium, but there's not a mortgage moratorium. You know what I mean? So, hey, wait a minute. So some of these people come to me really desperate. So part of why people come to me is because I'm trying to seek constantly and try and find the fastest lender that I can get you the money the fastest. Cool. So during the second round, we're dealing with our known people. And then at the corner of my eye, I see the mayor's office of something, something advertised the PPP. So they got some money from the federal government, gave it to, I think, the state of Maryland, which gave it to the city. And the city has their own PPP application that they're trying to help people get the PPP. So we put a couple people in there, and they didn't get funded.
So you told me the SBA, you have this ticker on your site. Where is the ticker for the money that the city got?
So not on my website, it's on the on my Instagram.
On your Instagram. So you're telling me the city got money from the federal government, and some people never got anything from the city. Was there a way that you know of that me as a resident could track how much money the city received and how the disbursements went and what actually went out?
You know, I don't know. I don't get into that. I'm I'm very busy trying to just help people get them the money. So afterwards, you know, we're probably all going to become Monday morning quarterbacks and figure out what happened to the money, where it went, so forth and so on. But I want to be clear that the city didn't get money from the federal government. The city got the money from the state, and the state got it from the federal government. So it's a trickle down of some sorts. And I don't know. Well, actually, I think we can figure out how much money the state got from the federal government. I
thought they were using a lot of it for the restaurants in downtown. They didn't really focus on the overall businesses across Baltimore. I think it was more of the
zone.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Certain zones that they really targeted, mostly the downtown market, from my understanding. The rest of the businesses, unless you were, I think recently it was something about restaurants, but you know, for the most part, it's like been downtown.
Because they've been able to expand, like the Atlas Group, those type of restaurants downtown that were able to expand in a time when a lot of restaurants, small businesses were closing. I found that very remarkable. So I know a lot of their restaurants are downtown.
So we remember all the way back to when PPP first started. They say this is the second round of PPP, but for me, there was round 1A, 1B, and 1C before there was even a round 2. Round 1A of PPP, and I'm speaking to what you guys are speaking to. In round 1A, there's $348 billion, and they spent it all in about 2 weeks because the big corporations came and grabbed it. The Los Angeles Lakers got $4 million. Ruth Chris got $20 million. You know, so it's the same old game. You know, if the Atlas Group got it, it's, you know.
I'm not saying they did or didn't, but we're talking about restaurants downtown. And then, you know, you will see that some are expanding and opening new restaurants at a time when I just saw a lot of restaurants being forced to close. So
absolutely,
it's just an assumption. I'm not making a disclaimer that they did or did not, but I do know that, you know, some restaurants were able to stay open and do very well and expand in the time group. And that just crossed my mind because I know they opened new restaurants.
So Ms. Brown, can we all say systemic racism?
Yes.
Baltimore City.
But again, what we always talk about in Baltimore City, our leaders in Baltimore City, are Black. So it's difficult to talk about systemic racism when our elected officials are not white.
Bought and sold. I consider it bought and sold, the majority of them, when you sit back and think about it. I mean, I'm just being honest. I looked at these city council bills, this bill, you know, and a lot of it is just simply ludicrous. You know, they want to bring in and make it unionized, and Baltimore City, from my understanding, doesn't have a lot of unions. So that's, yeah.
Certain contracts over, I forget the threshold. Yeah, we're not a union city, and that is another issue. So again, when you say systematic racism within this whole PPP process and what the city received, and you said you had 2 clients that didn't get anything.
Yeah, so we put 2 clients into that system, and when they weren't successful, we just took them out and went elsewhere. And I haven't really thought about the mayor's office of this and that. They weren't user friendly. if you're going to have a program, I think in Baltimore City that is predominantly African American, you have to understand how African American businesses are built and how they operate. Not everyone has a P&L, profit and loss statement. Not everyone has 3-year history of tax returns. Not everyone has Schedule Cs. Not everyone has the traditional documents, and you're going to have to figure out a different way to help folks.
But the zone that it covered, I don't think there was heavily our businesses anyway in those zones. But at any rate, well, I digress.
And you know what? Maybe, I don't know if that was the answer to why my 2 clients didn't get it. Were they not in this zone? I don't know. When we read the criteria, it didn't state any particular zone. I know now there's a lot of heat. Well, it should be a lot of heat at the SBA for their targeted EIDL thing. Because when you get that email, everyone gets excited because they're supposed to owe you the $10,000 grant for EIDL that they were promising everybody, and that most people got $1,000. They're supposed to owe you $9,000. And so when you get this targeted email saying, hey, we're going to give you the rest of this money, but then they say, oh, wait, only if you live or if your business is in this zone. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute now. What are you talking about in this particular zone? Like, it's almost as if Black businesses only exist in this zone. And I think that's a terrible disservice to all of us that, why does my business, or why do you consider my business only to be in the hood or in this zone? Nothing wrong with wherever we are, but just consider, some of my clients, they have businesses in Owings Mills, come on, Baltimore County, somewhere else, Wacomico County, like, come on. We're not always in this targeted zone. Like, we can only be in this targeted zone, and
we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, SBA came out with another program they released. I think it was on the 26th, a new program. I think it has $50 billion, and it's another. I read it today, and it's, I didn't even have the strength to put it out yet because it's another targeted thing.
To who?
And I just hung my head in shame because it's targeted for African Americans or POCs, people of color. But one of the criteria is, the first criteria, I think it was the very first criteria, is if you want to get this new money, $50 billion targeted to persons of color, you got to be in this zone. I'm like, what?
What's the zone though? What's the zone?
Hub zone.
I'm in hub zone. I'm in hub zone.
Is it a hub zone?
PPP. No,
I didn't get a chance to click on it and see, because I knew, and I guarantee 99% sure it's going to be the same zone that the EIDL targeted advance was for. I know it is. I know it is. I know it's going to be that same zone, and they're going to limit my clients to being in the zone before they can get or receive that particular help. And with systemic racism isn't just in that zone.
And so wait a minute, when you say, is it specifically saying people, I know you didn't read it in depth, but is it specifically saying minorities or people of color? Because remember, white women are considered minorities as well. So right. I'm curious to know what that language is.
I don't want to misstate it because it came across my email real quick, and I don't want to misstate it, but I remember it saying, it really said disadvantaged persons inside a zone.
Okay, here we go. It's that funny. It's that convoluted. It's that convoluted language.
Yeah, that's usually a threshold of income, and it's not related to much. So
right,
yeah.
It's that stuff that we're still locked out.
Wow, very good information. So just to let the viewers know that a new program has come out on the 26th, and if you have questions, once the contract doctor has reviewed it and uses his expertise, he'll be able to assist you with this new amount of money, or the PPPs, which are still available, and the EIDL, which is also still available. Correct?
Yes. Also, there's 2 other programs: the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. So if you are a restaurant, a lot of people like to think they could do it themselves, but once you try that Restaurant Revitalization application, Once you get frustrated, come see us. The other one is the SVOG, the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, and that's shuttered venues, managers, a lot of the folks that are in the entertainment space. And again, you can try and get it on your own, but once you get frustrated, come see us. Last, let me say something too. I don't just do PPP and EIDL and that stuff. I'm the contract doctor. And the very base of what I do is I write and review and interpret contracts for small business owners who provide a service. I make sure that those contracts, when they're generated or right before you sign one, I make sure that you don't sign anything that you'll later regret. That's the core of our business. So we do contracts all over the country. You'll be surprised at some of the companies that we do big contracts for.
That's really good to know, because a lot of our businesses, what I find with a lot of people is they come to you after the fact, after they haven't signed a contract, or even with the partnership. They've given money to someone, there's no formal partnership agreement. There's things that are not in place. And so we do want to enforce that. It's better to do things right, because eventually it's going to cost you more if you don't. So it's better to get an expert and to get those services done up front versus trying to chase your tail later. And even though a napkin can be an agreement, you kind of want someone to look over some things to make sure, business and friends and family can turn very quickly. So it's better to have things in writing. And from my past dealings with the city, if anyone's on that has contracts with the city or has contracts with these prime non-minority businesses, contact the contract doctor. You may not want to retain an attorney, but have them look at that language, because the language has to match the requirements for the city. So you should have someone review your contracts. Absolutely. You're a business owner, you don't have the time to do that, and you may miss something that is critical to your business. So just wanted to reinforce that, because it is extremely important.
Thank you for that. I'm going to use that in our next commercial.
So we do have a question where someone is asking, I guess in general, like, do you have a fee schedule?
Yes. Well, hold on. No, we're putting together a fee schedule now for our contract work and the PPP and EIDL work. We're going to be changing that fee schedule too. So have that person contact me. Just be aware that I do have a fee. That's the most important thing. We're in the business of helping folks, but at the same time, this actually is a lot of work. It's not easy work. A lot of people think, I had one gentleman say to me, you want me to pay you for a free application? Okay, the PPP application is on the SBA website. Sir, hit print, fill it out, go for it. You know what I mean? Hey, and if you're successful, I'm the first one to applaud you, seriously. But it's not easy, it's difficult. And if you're a small business owner, a lot of people just don't have time to fool with that stuff. They need this, they need that. You have to follow up.
And you know what banks to go to, like you said, some of the banks are a lot slower or waiting on the city, and nothing ever happens. So you certainly need that expertise. Yeah.
Thank you. Another commercial.
I just believe in services. I mean, you have to get things done, and our small business owners can't do it themselves.
No. Well, I mean, this has been a wealth of information for the most part. I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed, and I've learned a lot.
Awesome.
I may be contacting you. I think we've spoken before, and I'm still like, I'm the one that's like scared of the handcuffs.
No. Nicole, as long as as long as you have a legitimate business, it's not an LLC. It's not,
I'm too claustrophobic.
Remember, most of the people that are committing the fraud, it's the $1 million PPPers. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. My people, 15,000, 20,000. It's hard to commit fraud for 15, 20,000. It really is. You know what I mean? It's you're getting.
Hey, but you know what, Paul? I mean, we're just skeptical, because we also get people mistake tasers and take us out. So, I mean, it's unfortunate that we culturally are like prone to say it might be only a $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 loan, but we're the ones that's going to end up under the jail for it. So meanwhile, someone's driving by their Lamborghini. So, a taser and a gun, that doesn't happen, but it only happens to us when it does happen.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
And I think that's why some people come to me, because I'm going to do it the right way, and I'm going to keep you safe. Because keeping you safe ultimately keeps who safe? Me. Because if I do something wrong on your behalf and the feds come to you, who's the first person you're going to point to?
Well, I might just take it because that's how I'm built.
Okay,
I might be like, well, we just going.
All right.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for this wealth of information. Don't be afraid if you've been making any money. As of February 20th, 2020, you have your own business, make sure you get that PPP loan. And if you're a sole proprietor, you can still do it.
I think it's going to last maybe another 2, maybe 3 weeks. So folks need to make a decision ASAP. They're generally spending between 9 and 11 billion every week. Not spending, they're giving it away. I think they just gave away $9 billion last week. And if you weren't in that 9 billion, shame on you.
All right, make sure you get on it.
9 billion this week. Are you going to be in this week? 11 billion next week. Y'all better get in that line and get what you're entitled to get, nothing more. If you get what you're entitled to get, you'll be fine.
Well, give us your contact information one more time for our viewers and any last words.
All right. You can reach me on my hotline, 443-402-5580. You can text me personally. I will answer text messages at 443-625-9313. And you can always DM me or put a comment on my Instagram, which is at The Contract Doctor. Everything spelled out, The Contract Doctor.
Thank you so much for all this information. We hope you all enjoyed the show. Next week, we're supposed to have a city council member on to break down some of these bills that are flying through city council. And we're going to talk about that and how it's impacting our businesses. But check out our Instagram page, SISTABIZ Show on Instagram, so you can find out. We'll confirm our guests in advance, so you know who's coming on and you can get that great information. And then the following week, I think we have some wonderful entrepreneurs that are going to talk about their businesses. So thank you again, Contract Doctor. We'll probably have you on again.
Yeah,
there's more money coming through, and we want to make sure we get some of that.
Yeah,
you got it.
I got to start.
And check out my fiance, the assisted living coach, as a future guest. She educates people how to get into the assisted living world, which is exploding.
Wow, wonderful. We've got that those boomers that need that assistance. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
well, thanks again. We'll see everybody next week, and make sure you contact the Contract Doctor.
Yeah. See you.
Thank you.